2026 is stacked with huge games. Big studios, big budget, and big hype. This year has everything gamers have been waiting for. Here are the 20 massive games that will save gaming in 2026. OO7 The First Light is one of the biggest releases coming up, and it puts you in the early years of James Bond, before he becomes the iconic agent everyone knows. The story kicks off with Bond investigating a secret organization connected to a dangerous tech weapon called First Light. The gameplay mixes sneaking, shootout, and classic spy work in a way that doesn't lock you into one style. One mission might have you breaking into a secure lab, another might have you following a target through a crowded street, and another has you hacking a system while avoiding guards. You can stay quiet, go loud, or switch it up depending on how things unfold. Gadgets keep things interesting. Hacking tools, trackers, jammers, little devices that let you solve problems your own way. If the final game delivers on what's been shown so far, The First Light has real potential to be one of the games that save gaming in 2026.
It's really quite simple. Bond is a bullet without a target. Let's give him one.
So you shouldn't have.
We're facing a situation of the utmost delicacy. I need all my pieces on the board.
009 is a master manipulator. Whatever the endgame is, we won't see it coming.
Jet lag gets me every time.
She's not your friend, Bond. She's an asset.
With respect, Mom. To hell with that.
To face evil, fear is not an option.
The Occultist is one of those horror games that leans more into mystery and tension than non-stop action. You follow Alan Rebels, a paranormal investigator heading to a deserted island called Godstone to figure out what happened to his missing father. The place used to be home to a cult, and now it's covered in fog, abandoned houses, and weird symbols. The game is all about exploring and piecing things together. You're not running around shooting monsters. Most of the time you're sneaking, hiding, and using a special pendulum tool to uncover clues. It reacts to the environment, helps track supernatural activity, and forces you to actually think about where to go instead of just following markers. If you're into horror games that let you explore, solve, and uncover a mystery without turning it into an action shooter, The Occultist looks like one of the stronger releases to keep an eye on for 2026.
That spark didn't come easy, Ray.
Yeah, a few bumps along the way. But I got it.
You really fixing to gamble with it?
1 for 5, it's worth a shot.
And you worried something might go wrong?
Wrong. I'm counting on it. It's mine now. Finish him.
Zoopunk is shaping up to be one of the cooler action games coming in 2026. The story takes place long before the game Fist forged in Shadow Torch, back when Torch City was still trying to grow. The animals discover a powerful energy source called the Fire Seed and start building advanced machines. Combat is the main highlight. You can switch between multiple characters, each with their own style. One might be quick and agile, while another hits harder but moves slower. Dodging between attacks, chaining combos, and swapping abilities in the middle of a fight feels smooth. Ty Games, the studio that made the game Fist, is clearly stepping things up. The animations look cleaner, and everything has a more cinematic vibe compared to their previous work. If you're into fast action, stylish combat, and a world where animal heroes take on hostile machines, Zoopunk is definitely a game to keep on your radar. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake opens with Mio and Mayu wandering into a quiet village that looks completely abandoned. At first, it just seems old and forgotten, but the deeper you go, the more you realize something happened here that nobody should have seen. The remake sticks to the same core story, but everything looks sharper and more detailed. The lighting is cleaner, the sound design is sharper, and the animations make the village feel more alive. The devs clearly tried to keep the same vibe instead of changing the whole tone, which is good because the original atmosphere was the best part. Gameplay is still built around the camera obscura, and that's where the tension really hits. You're not fighting ghosts with weapons, you're lining up shots through a camera lens while hoping nothing grabs you from the side. It's slow, and way more intense than regular combat.
Do you think this is... What happened?
The ritual will begin soon.
Everyone's dead. Mia, no. Stay back. Run away.
Residents, please head to local quarantine zone.
You see that?
I'm starting to see why I was sent to you. You might be the key.
Project Retrograde opens with a strong hook. The world has already fallen apart after a parasite called Luca wipes out humanity's last safe zone. You play as a bounty hunter who survives infection, but instead of turning, you gain strange abilities from it. That setup gives you a clear goal right away. Figure out what happened and why you were the one who didn't break. Combat is where it gets interesting. You're switching between hand-to-hand moves, firearms, and parasite powers you pick up as you go. It looks designed to keep fights from feeling repetitive, since you can change your approach depending on the enemy or the situation you're in. On the development side, this is the studio's first big project, and they're aiming for a mix of narrative drama and survival mechanics. It's ambitious, but the concept and early direction make it stand out.
Victor Gideon.
Grace! Grace!
Victor purchased a building after Umbrella went under. I'll send you the address.
Dr. Gideon has been expecting you.
You there, Leon?
Yeah.
Hey, over here.
FBI. What are you doing here?
Would you like to see what's hidden under the hood?
Don't do anything stupid.
Me? Never.
Resident Evil Requiem brings back the legendary Leon Kennedy in a way fans have been waiting for. He's sent to investigate a series of bizarre attacks tied to an old, falling-apart hotel in Raccoon City. This one's shaping up to be one of 2026's biggest horror titles because Capcom is blending classic survival horror with modern tech. The game runs on the RE engine with enhanced lighting and environments, and you can switch between first and third-person views depending on how you want to play. That mix gives players both tense exploration and action-packed encounters. Gameplay really leans into variety. Grace's sections lean more into fear and evasion, making you feel vulnerable and on edge, while Leon's parts bring heavier combat and familiar series mechanics. These contrasting playstyles keep the pacing fresh and make every chapter feel different. The Relic First Guardian starts with the world basically falling apart. A land called Arsiltis that's now swallowed by a dark void after an ancient relic was destroyed. You play as the last Guardian, the only person who can piece together the relic's fragments and close the void before the darkness spreads any further. Gameplay leans toward fast action. You can switch between different weapon types, each with its own feel, and the combat is about timing attacks, dodging, and landing skills instead of dealing with a heavy stamina bar. It keeps fights moving and makes even regular enemies fun to deal with. The dev team is aiming for a clean, modern RPG feel without overly complicated systems. Your progress comes from better gear, runes, and crafted upgrades, so exploring and taking down tougher enemies actually matters.
The First Guardian. Everyone you'll meet carries a story of their own. Some have lost everything to the Brutals.
The Godslayer is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated games right now, and it's easy to see why. You play as Cheng, an Elemancer whose family was wiped out when the Celestials attacked humanity. The world is broken, people are barely holding on, and you're stepping in as someone who can actually fight back. Gameplay focuses on elemental combat. You're switching between fire, water, earth, metal, and wood abilities depending on the situation. And each element reacts differently in fights. It keeps combat active instead of button mashy, and you can approach battles in your own way. Go aggressive, play it safe, or mix elements for bigger effects. The developers at Pythia Games are aiming for a long, story-heavy adventure with lots of side missions and an open world that changes as you progress. It's ambitious, but it looks like they're putting the work in to make it smooth on modern hardware. The Sinking City 2 is easily one of the most talked-about horror games coming in 2026. This time, the story centers on Arkham in the 1920s, a city collapsing under supernatural floods and strange events. You follow a struggling investigator trying to make sense of a place that feels like it's sinking both physically and mentally. The big shift here is tone and gameplay. The original game focused heavily on clue hunting, but the sequel leans into straight survival horror. You move through flooded alleys and damaged buildings, searching for supplies, avoiding trouble when resources run low, and deciding how far you're willing to go into dangerous areas. Development is happening under tough conditions. Frogwares talked openly about delays and real-world issues, but they're using the extra time to polish the experience instead of rushing it out. Ill starts by taking you into a rundown town that feels completely wrong the moment you step in. Roads are cracked, houses look abandoned, and whatever happened here clearly wasn't natural. You follow a lone survivor trying to figure out what happened. The team behind it comes from horror movies and big TV productions, so the tone feels more real-world than most games. The monsters don't just walk at you in a straight line. They move in creepy, unpredictable ways, and the gore is done with practical style effects that look disturbingly grounded. Gameplay mixes exploration, shooting, and survival. The devs are using physics to make the world react more naturally. Doors slam based on force, objects break differently depending on what hits them, and enemies respond to noise or movement instead of repeating one pattern. Chronicles Medievel is aiming to be one of the biggest medieval sandbox games coming in 2026, and the idea is pretty straightforward. You start with nothing in a gritty version of medieval Europe and slowly build your own path. You work your way up, earn respect, and deal with trouble as it comes. The cool part is how it mixes action and strategy instead of forcing you into just one lane. One moment you're fighting in a small skirmish, the next you're leading a whole army across fields, or defending a castle you actually built. It feels more like an open sandbox where the game reacts to your choices rather than locking you into a strict storyline. Combat looks flexible too. You can pick your style: melee, cavalry, ranged, and your decisions on the battlefield matter. Same goes for diplomacy and how you treat people. It affects who supports you, who hates you, and what opportunities show up later.
But some paths, once taken, have only one ending. I shall find no peace. On this road, there is only death.
Onimusha Way of the Sword is shaping up to be one of the coolest games coming in 2026. This time you follow Musashi, a wandering swordsman caught in the middle of a violent era where the Genma have returned and started corrupting the land. Musashi steps into all of this trying to survive, but he ends up tied to something much bigger than he expected. Combat is the main reason people are excited. Musashi's style mixes quick slashes, clean parries, and heavy finishers, so every encounter feels tight and skill-based. You can't just mash buttons. You wait for the right moment, counter, and strike. Each weapon has its own timing, and the game rewards you for mastering the rhythm. If everything comes together, Onimusha Way of the Sword could end up being a standout action game and a real return to form for the series.
Who is controlling this lightning?
I don't have time for these stupid games!
I'm terribly sorry. Anyway, do enjoy.
Musashi! We both want the same thing, Musashi. But there's only room for one at the top. And it won't be a coward who runs from jewels. Words never did work between us, did they? Sasaki Ganyu.
After the large haul down this corridor, they shut down this part of the facility. Long time before our arrival.
Fine. Let's deal with those guys first.
In Yolota, they never look up. Zafar, you were right. They shut down this.
Wait!
I need backup.
Hold on, I'm coming! I'll cover you.
The Expanse Osiris Reborn is one of the sci-fi RPGs getting a lot of attention lately, and for good reason. You follow a Pinkwater security mercenary who stops on Eros Station for a short break, and suddenly the entire station goes into lockdown. People panic, alarms blare, and you get pulled into a chain of events tied to a major conspiracy stretching across the solar system. Gameplay mixes third-person tactical shooting with RPG depth. You can command your squad, take cover, manage loadouts, and make choices that affect who stays with you. Companions can form relationships with you, argue with you, or even die permanently depending on the decisions you make. It leans more into player choice than a typical action game. The Expanse Osiris Reborn could end up as one of the standout sci-fi RPGs when it releases. Blood Message drops you right into a brutal version of the Tang Dynasty, where war has torn the land apart and survival is never easy. You're a courier trying to deliver one final, extremely important message, and your young son is with you the whole way. You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting to protect him while carrying a message that could change everything. Combat mixes melee with a bit of stealth and survival. You're not blasting through enemies like a robot, timing matters. Fighting face-to-face feels gritty, and when you sneak around instead, it makes every successful dodge or takedown feel earned. The development team is using Unreal Engine 5, so the environments look sharp and detailed, but everything still feels grounded and not overly flashy. The focus seems to be on a believable journey, not a superhero action game. Project Spectrum takes place in a world thrown off balance by something called the Ember, a strange force that twists the environment, creates dangerous zones, and brings out monsters that shouldn't exist. You follow an operator sent into these Ember zones with a small squad, trying to gather intel, grab supplies, and make it out alive while the area shifts around you. The gameplay mixes tactical shooting with a bit of horror and unpredictability. You deal with Ember-created creatures, but you also have to watch out for other players. It's PvPvE, so another squad can show up at any moment and either help you or wipe you out. That constant tension makes every decision matter, whether you push forward, stay hidden, or pull out early. There's more going on than just gunfights. You craft gear on the fly, manage your team, and handle a sanity system that ramps up the longer you stay inside an Ember zone.
Watch out!
Child of Orion, fulfill the purpose for which you were crafted, and seize your destiny.
Our world is dying. You are the only one who can wield celestial tech and find a cure. Well, that's terrifying.
Exodus drops you into a far future sci-fi RPG where humanity barely survived and now faces something bigger than any one civilization ever has. You take on the role of June Aslan, a traveler, someone who explores the stars to find ancient remnants that might hold the key to saving your home and changing the fate of human history. This one stands out mainly because of who's making it. The studio, Archetype Entertainment, was founded by developers who helped shape big RPGs like Mass Effect and Star Wars. You can feel that experience in how the game is built. Gameplay looks wide open and flexible. You'll explore huge star systems, handle intense third-person combat, manage your squad, and make decisions that affect your reputation across different human and alien groups. The game lets you approach encounters however you like, sneak, fight, or negotiate your way through. Sword and Fairy 4 Remake is one of the most anticipated remakes right now, and it starts with a simple but strong story setup. You start with a young guy who grew up alone in the mountains after losing his parents. His quiet life ends the moment he crosses paths with a girl who's searching ancient ruins. That meeting pushes both of them into a much bigger adventure involving old magic and a world on the edge of falling apart. The combat is the part people are talking about the most. It's still turn-based at its core, but it's not slow or old-fashioned. It works a lot like Clair Obscur, where you get those active prompts, timed parries, reaction-based counters, and quick inputs that make battles feel more alive. If you like fantasy RPGs with emotional storytelling and battles that blend strategy with quick reactions, Sword and Fairy 4 Remake is shaping up to be a strong release worth watching.
有一件事你要牢记：孤独能够摧毁世上最坚强的意志。面对未来的漫长岁月，我唯愿你不会孤独。
Directive 8020 kicks off with a really tense setup. You're part of the crew on the colony ship Cassiopeia, heading to a new world because Earth is basically done. Everything falls apart when the ship crash lands, and before anyone can regroup, something alien starts moving through the wreck. Something that can copy people it kills. So right away you're dealing with paranoia, missing crew members, and the feeling that anybody around you could be the creature in disguise. The devs at Supermassive Games, the same team behind Until Dawn and The Quarry, are leaning into sci-fi horror here. One of the bigger changes is the new Turning Point system. Instead of replaying the whole game just to fix one bad decision, you can jump back to key moments and try a different choice. It fits well with the story since the wrong call can get a character killed or send the plot down a totally different path.
We are going to do this. Just lower the gun.
Not until you move from the scanner.
Those things can change shape.
Don't you ever point that thing at me again.
Scan complete. Subject unidentifiable.
We need urgent assistance.
Black State starts with a pretty intriguing hook. You're part of a rescue operation sent into a facility that went completely silent. Something went wrong inside, people are missing, and the deeper you go, the stranger things get. Some doors lead exactly where you'd expect, and others teleport you into totally different areas with no warning. The gameplay mixes stealth, gunfights, and a bit of tactical planning. You deal with armed soldiers, drones, and machines that don't go down easily. Rushing in usually gets you killed, so you end up moving slowly, checking corners, and using gadgets to get the upper hand. Bigger fights and boss encounters push you to read attack patterns instead of just spraying bullets. What really stands out is how the game looks. It's built in Unreal Engine 5, and the early footage shows near photorealistic lighting and environments. GTA 6 is shaping up to be one of the biggest gaming releases of the decade, and there's a good reason people are hyped for it. The story follows two protagonists, a couple with a complicated past, trying to survive and make it in a criminal world full of chaos, opportunity, and constant danger. Early trailers hint at a return to a modernized Vice City, with other locations mixed in, giving the world a huge, vibrant background to all the action. Gameplay looks like everything people love about the series. Massive open world, tons of freedom, and a mix of criminal gigs. This time, Rockstar seems focused on refining the core experience. Smoother driving, deeper shooting mechanics, more lifelike NPCs, and a world that actually reacts to what you do instead of just being scenery. This is Rockstar's biggest project ever. They've been building the game for years, iterating on ideas that push both narrative and world detail further than any previous GTA.